All right. I'm going to talk again about politics in the context of monism. So keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that the reason I make videos is so that you can tell me if I'm wrong. You can write a comment and we can all learn together. So, in this episode, I'm going to talk about Christianity again. And it's geared more towards Christians. What I'm going to say, so it'll probably offend mostly Christians, but most people will be offended by what I'm going to say anyway. Uh, so, um, all right. So I'm going to start off by using the phrase "you're a pawn." And that's a part of our common vernacular. That's in the zeitgeist. Everyone knows generally what that means. You're a pawn. You're being controlled. uh, but really think about, because it means a lot of different things at the same time. Um, so basically, a pawn is someone who thinks like a pawn. Um, and so basically, the fact that there are pawns means that there's a chess game going on. And that's what I think is going on. That's my political analysis, is that there's a game, kind of like chess, going on, and that there's one team versus another team. And that's the game, and it involves a lot of pawns. And so that's basically what our society is right now. It's there are two separate status quos, and so basically, how a pawn thinks is that they're really invested in the chess game. They don't really see anything other than Team Red versus Team Blue. Um, a pawn is extremely invested in the game, and think that what they're doing is extremely important, fighting the enemy, and they don't see in they can only see in terms of you're either a good guy or a bad guy. Um, and they and a part of that is that they don't realize that there's a chess game going on. They don't realize that there are players controlling the chess pieces, and they don't realize that the bad guys, their enemies, are also pawns. And so to continue on with that, to be a pawn is to not realize that you're a pawn. So I could be a pawn and not know it. That's pretty much what being a pawn is. You don't know that you're a pawn. Um, but you'd have to agree with me that pawn behavior includes not wondering if you're a pawn or not. Okay. Um, so, all right. So people are pawns because they're controlled in a lot of different ways, manipulated in a lot of different ways, directly and indirectly. A pawn is not allowed to get out of line, basically. So, that you're to the pawn, it's a war. It's a very important war, but in the grand scheme of reality, it's a game. So you're a pawn and you're made to fight other pawns in a game. And because, it really is a game. Um, and the two sides in our society, red team and blue team, uh, really are very, very similar. And this is why it's a game, and that the outcome doesn't really matter that much. The outcome will kind of be the same no matter who wins. Um, and, you know, the Team Red and Team Blue, they really 95% of things they agree on. And it's only the little things that they disagree upon. Um, but 95% of stuff they all agree upon, and they work together on it. And then the little minor things they disagree upon, and they make it, and it's a huge deal, and it's focusing on these little disagreements is part of the show, and it adds to the reality that it's a game, and that there are players. I mean, the chess players, the people playing chess are not in a war. The pawns are in a war. To the chess players, it's a fun, yeah, it's a game. Okay. Okay, so I just want to say that to me, it doesn't really matter who wins because of the reasons I stated. Um, um, Whatever which side winning is much less important than other things. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm really special. I'm not part of the chess game, and I have like the moral high ground because I'm like a pacifist or something. I'm not like Carol who says, oh, why can't we just all get along and make orgone pyramids. It's just I'm not. I hope I'm not part of the chess game. There are. Well, yeah, I don't want to like get into that too much. I kind of want to keep this simple. And then another thing I don't really want to like get into that much is who are the sides, red team versus blue team. You could view it as any different way. It's kind of like putting people in boxes. Depending on their personality characteristics, you can divvy it up. You could put any labels on it you want. You could call them Team Red versus Team Blue. That's probably you know what I'm talking about. But it could be like the Democrats versus Republicans, or the Democrats versus the Republicans, or the atheists versus the Christians. That's I'm talking about both groups, but I'm going to mainly talk about Christians. It's focused more on Christians, or let's say the Marxists versus the Zionists. And these are like generalizations, because like you could say the atheists, Marxists, or the Christian Zionists. And there's Christians on both sides, there's atheists on both sides. doesn't matter. Labels, generalization. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Um, so that's kind of the introduction, and it's totally necessary to state these things before getting into the topic of. I'm going to use a phrase called anti-intellectualism, and that is a very good topic if you want to get some insights into the near future of politics. Anyway, just look into the topic of anti-intellectualism. It's a political term. The term anti-intellectualism, it seems like that term is used by the Marxist side, and it's primarily used to describe Christians. Not my idea. That's literally anti-intellectualism is primarily focused, especially today, focused at Christians. So apparently, intellectuals are political figures that support Marxism, or college professors that throw in Marxist stuff during their lessons. So apparently those are intellectuals. So if you're a real intellectual, you don't have anything to worry about. So just the reason I did all this introduction is because when I use the term anti-intellectualism, don't think that I'm a Marxist. Okay, don't think that I'm the bad guy pawn. Okay, as I'm speaking to Christians who probably won't listen to me. So there are kernels of truth to this phrase, anti-intellectualism. And what does it really mean? The simplest common language definition that one could use to express the general idea of anti-intellectualism is that it is the attitude that learning new things is bad. And so to be viewed as an anti-intellectual, you don't really have to say that you think learning new things is bad. You don't actually have to say those words. You just kind of have to have that attitude. And that doesn't necessarily make you an anti-intellectual. I'm just saying that people who think you're an anti-intellectual aren't waiting for you to say that you're an anti-intellectual. Okay. Because when people are accused of being an anti-intellectual, that's the first response is, oh, I didn't say I was an anti-intellectual. I keep in mind, it is not my intention to insult anyone. I'm just trying to get a general idea across without being worried if people are insulted. Christians generally are anti-intellectuals in the way that the Marxists call them. That's just a fact. And it's because Christians have the general attitude that learning new things is bad. And that's like a very watered down way of describing the attitude of the average Christian. I mean, personally, most people in my life I've known have been Christian, and I personally have not met an exception or found an exception to this rule. There's probably an exception to this rule, but Christians, the general attitude from Christians is that if you learn new things, you will suffer for eternity in hell. Okay. That's the general attitude. Okay. I mean, don't shoot the messenger. Okay. I want to make it clear that it's not my position that Christians are anti-intellectuals. It's my position that Christians that are pawns are anti-intellectuals. And the reason is because pawns are anti-intellectuals. In fact, I also think that the pawns on the Marxist side are, in the exact same way and level, anti-intellectuals. And they share so many traits. They're both sides, both pawns are anti-intellectuals. For example, in universities, what is taught is dogmatic in universities. And in recent decades, these ideologies that are taught dogmatically in universities are against science. They're anti-science. So, Marxists would say that I'm an anti-intellectual because I'm against universities, but that's not. I'm pro-science and I'm pro-intellectualism. I'm pro-knowledge, and it is my position that, for the most part, today, in recent years, at least, universities are a realm of anti-science. And these atheists, postmodernists, whatever, they share so many similarities with Christians. You have to support the status quo, the authorities, and if you don't, then you're a bad person. They don't want to learn new things. So many similarities. Oh, they virtue signal about, I'm wearing the badge. I'm wearing the social status badge because I effing love science. Or, I'm wearing the social status badge because I'm a Christian. Okay. It's really annoying. It's really meaningless to wear such a badge if every member of your society is claiming that every other member of your society is not a member of the Christians college. If you're a Christian listening to this right now, most Christians that know you, think that you are not a Christian and that you are going to hell. Like, they probably don't say it to your face. They probably might say something like, I hope that you're going to go to heaven with me. Okay. Just, keep that in mind. And if you're a Christian, I guarantee there's so many people out there that call themselves Christians that you think, those aren't real Christians. For whatever reason. And you can't explain. That's the other thing. You can't prove or explain, give a single reason why they're not Christian. Very annoying. Pawn behavior, anti-intellectualism. Okay. Not saying you're a pawn. I'm just saying that's how pawns think. Know what I'm saying? Okay. So Christianity. It is my opinion that the anti-intellectualism that I'm talking about is what's called apostasy. Christians are always talking about apostasy this, apostasy that. I think that what I'm talking about, this anti-intellectualism, is apostasy. Okay? Now, what's the solution? Not the solution, but I have something that is in the direction of a solution. Okay. In Jewish society, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because I just kind of read about this, but there's a special priestly class that keeps the secret knowledge. Patriarchs. Once you're if you're in a certain group and you reach a certain age, you're taught the super secret knowledge of esoteric knowledge of the Kabbalah, and they did that for various reasons. But one of the explicitly stated reasons was to keep the faith as a particular metaphysical position, namely monism or Neoplatonism. That was the explicit reason to have the system set up that way. And in that system, basically, not everyone. If you're thinking shallowly, you'd say that everyone needs to be a scholar, everyone needs to be an intellectual. But not everyone's going to be an intellectual. Not everyone can be a scholar. So this system, on paper, works. I don't know if it does or not. I don't have personal experience. But this system when you'd think would work, because you have this class, the priestly class, that keeps the knowledge secure, and then everyone else who's not a scholar can trust what they say. So let me make my point here. What I'm saying is that this system was put in place to prevent a particular thing from happening. This particular thing has happened to Christianity, at least in the West, in America. And that is the core problem, the root of the problems, and that is what makes Christians anti-intellectuals, and that's what makes them that's the apostasy. That is the apostasy right there. So I'm not saying that Christians should copy that system exactly. The way that system is, it's for different people for a different time. I don't even think it would work currently in our system. I don't think it would fix the problem. I wouldn't want it to be like that. And it doesn't really it's not perfect. I would lean more towards like I know it sounds weird, but I would lean more towards like a kind of like a caste type system like that, with like different class, pre, you know, like a priestly caste, but based upon other variables um, that are not age. I don't think really age is a good good variable to keep your knowledge secure. But what I'm saying is that there are people that are already scholars. They have certain personalities. They're basically born to be scholars. They're gonna be scholars no matter what, even if they're not in the priestly caste. They're still gonna be scholars, and most other people are not. Christianity doesn't have that. There's not a body of people that Christians can trust to get the correct information from. Um, uh, because there's not that system in place. Uh, so, yeah, I mean, Christian. I mean, I view these groups as extremely similar to each other. Um, the one group of the pawns that call are Christians and they view themselves as patriots. They are they're extremely similar to Marxists, extremely in so many ways, so many ways. And it's funny, and it doesn't matter who wins because it's a game, and it's just a funny game that's fun to watch. And I'm not saying I'm glad about that. I'm sad that there are pawns, but there are pawns. You know what I'm saying? And there's these people that they think that what they're doing is like really really important, and they're really really invested. But in the grand scheme of things, once the game ends, that's it's gonna be the end of the game. And what happens after the end of the game? Well, whatever the pawns did in the previous game doesn't really matter. And players shake their hand, do a handshake, say, hey, that was a fun game. Want to play again?